This is 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and therefore it's the Hour of Empower LinkedIn Live. Again, Kelly will probably be joining us in a little bit also. So I want to invite the audience to start thinking about what START means to them and how they can better define it for everyone else. And again, we depend on chat to guide us and direct us as to how to be most relevant, provide the best takeaways we can. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Natalie and she can give you a little update and share what her initial thoughts on START is.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for, again, yet another opportunity to be on your show, which I enjoy more and more every week. I just returned from a vacation to Canada. So it's nice to start the weekend. It's Friday, but start kind of catching up with everything that's been going on, and to be on the show to do that is a nice easy way. It's a nice way to ease into it. When I think about the word start, the first thing that came to mind actually when I looked at your the announce that you announced the word of the conversation, word of the day, when I saw that it was start, the first thing that came to mind was starting a race, start and finish. And when we see, let's say, like people who are like those athletes that prepare to engage in the race, and if one starts before they do the gun, the signal, they'll start over. And I was thinking, sports and especially racing is one of the, like, the instances where you see everybody needs to start at the same time, because you need to, it's a race, obviously. So I was thinking, what if it was like that in life, and if you want to get a head start, you'd get a signal saying, no, 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 wait for everybody else. So I was just kind of, these thoughts were roaming in my head, and I was seeing this little film in my head, and it's kind of funny.
Well, it's great when you can take a word to a picture,
Yeah.
and be able to visualize how it's in action. And, I look at start as a beginning,
Yes.
right? Get
Hmm.
started. There's a point to think and there's a point to do. And getting started means, in my mind, taking action that you haven't taken or you need to take or want to take or whatever it is that gets you there.
Hmm.
And how many new starts can you achieve every day? How many, to your point, every time runners race, there's always the world record, there's the national record, there's the meet record, and everybody's measuring themselves not only against the people in the race, but everybody who's raced before them,
Yeah.
who now has created that mark that everybody sees and maybe everybody wants to overcome. And starting in itself allows you to want to start more once you start with anything. So, with that said, Natalie, uh, there's so much to, I guess, taking initiative
Hmm.
started. So, what was a great start in your life?
Hmm. I think the start of a family comes to mind. I don't want to say I started late, but I didn't really see myself. I couldn't really imagine myself like with children for a long, long, long time. For some reason, I guess I didn't have the right partner. I don't know, but so I had my son just before I turned 30, and starting my family just made me a new person. And discovering how you can take care of that little being, and it doesn't come with a manual, but you start this journey of being a mother. And other than seeing your mom do things the way she did, like I said, you don't really have a manual. So that was a great start for me, a start of a relationship, being married, the start of my marriage. So I'm thinking very in a personal kind of way. But in terms of my career, the start of my business 8 years ago, because I put a lot of thoughts into it. And that's another way I'm thinking about start is sometimes you start something on an impulse. And where does that, you're going to start, I don't know, like you have an idea one weekend, we're going to start, we're going to buy bicycles and start, you know, going on different trails and things like that. So it's like, it's a way to discover, and it's a start into something kind of unknown, but starting something that you prepare. Like, for example, as an artist, when I start a painting, I envision something in my head first, and that kind of ignites, like, it's exciting for me to start the painting because I have an idea. So starting with an idea in your mind, or starting something unknown or on an impulse. I'd like to ask, people are just starting to join. Like, what's something you started without really thinking? Like, something, starting something on an impulse. I think is something interesting.
Yeah, to add to that, and I think that's really terrific, is when I look at my starts, they were always right after an ending. So, in other words, a big start when you moved out of your house for the first time, right? In order to do that, you had to end your household living with your family. When you got your first job, right? You had to go from everything that was given to you to now earning something. And it was jumping off a cliff in a sense, not knowing where you'd end up, because the first time is magical, but it's could be scary, right? Because to your point, I've never done this before. What do you do? And then you're around people that have done it for quite a while, and but that's the resourcefulness of enjoying that portion of the start. You know,
Mhm.
is what
Mhm.
what beginning is there that I can enjoy and participate, and what is it that's ahead of me that I need to study, that I need to learn, and that's, a job into itself. I mean, the same thing when we had our kids and we had moved away from our family and we're in Denver, didn't have anybody. And when we brought Susie home, I said, we didn't know what we were doing, I mean, we had an idea, but
Yeah.
I said, she doesn't know anything either, right? So as long as we do the right thing whenever we can, no, she's not going to correct us, the little girl. Uh, Plus, I said, there's been people doing this in caves with all kinds of issues around them, for years. I mean, so, and that's the best part of it. You have fun with it. Someone could get freaked out and someone could just burst out laughing. How could this happen? Or, if I'm the only person ever did this before. And that's where the enjoyment of whatever your effort is. So let's go through the audience really quickly. Christine's here. Christine's been a regular. Hope you're feeling better, Christine. Sometimes starting is the hardest part, then everything gets easier. Well, it's getting the inertia to get the start going. It's the movement you need to get off the block, and then take that further with you. Ashif is here. Thank you so much, Ashif, for being here all the time. Renadeb is our regular. Great to see you. Uh, Renadeb says, the start is the most difficult part for each and every one in any field, and especially in business. It is so difficult to understand how to do it. And, looking back is so much easier than looking forward, because when I look back, I could see cycles and time frames and things that I wouldn't have known going up front. But it was also the most fun times, the times when I entered something new and had to challenge myself. Dennis says, agree, being a mother doesn't come with a manual, but a womb-ule. Well, that was pretty fast and pretty witty. I'll give you credit for that one. Good afternoon. Thank you. We've got Crystal starting my coaching and becoming a teacher's aide. Well, that's a great start. It's so, you're looking back, you wish you were at the beginning again in some ways, to experience that first time. Starting over provides a second chance of choices. And, I think that's so key is to have choices. And that way you're not stuck or not dependent, with more options. So, Natalie, got a
Mhm.
great beginning group here and a lot of supportive comments. It gives us a lot of insights into start.
Yes, I love what the chief says about starting over because that was my next idea where like how many things can you start in one day in one life? Oh my gosh, I mean starting something and then bringing it to fruition, like taking something and not quitting. Do you really ever quit something you start or you start over? So that
Hmm.
kind of made me think that I prefer to start over than to think of something I started and I stopped or I quit because you're not going to love everything that you start. For example, when the pandemic started, I had a business, but I had to close up shop. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I decided to start something totally unknown. And I said, I thought, okay, I'm going to become a realtor. I'm going to go to school. And during the pandemic, that's what I did. I studied the whole, like for over a year. And then I started my career as a realtor and I didn't like it. So I stopped. To me, that's, I wouldn't start over, being a realtor because it just wasn't for me. But within the industry, I love the staging part of it. I love investing in real estate. So maybe looking at it in another angle and thinking, okay, I'm going to start over, but in another direction. Um, so I think starting over is very positive.
Well, it's change. It's doing something different or pivoting from something that wasn't quite right and making the adjustment to make it right.
Hmm.
The other element, and is we're really talking or have started mostly about life events, situations that were more dramatic, but taking it to what you do, how many paintings do you start? And when do you get back to them? And maybe never, maybe the next second. But it shows you everything's conditional, right? You have to go with your feel or your instinct
Hmm.
and also your interest. How many books do you start and it was so good for the first 30, 40 pages and then it got boring or uninteresting
Yeah.
and you decide it's not worth more effort. So in essence, you're always starting something. I mean, you start breakfast every day. You start your car every day. Every movement takes an effort or an activity or maybe no thought after a while. When you start your car, maybe that's the last thing you're thinking about when you press the button. And I think that's the key is how many things can you get going? How many people say, why don't you get going already? And that's really saying, why don't you get started, which is get out of bed or get to work or get to the playground or whatever the circumstance is. Maria's here. Thank you for being here. Dennis comes back with restart is positive and good for your heart. Anything that's not serving you is an opportunity for a restart, a redo, a new start. Sometimes it just you get tired of a color and you just decide I'm into this color for a while,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and then other times you're into oatmeal and other times you're into eggs, and that's okay, because at least you're making the choices, you're having the experiences, and why not paint with a bold brush? And paint more often. Everybody wishes, I think, they could do more of what they love doing, whatever that is,
Yes.
right? And that's where people really tend to gravitate. Natalie?
Yeah, I love your last comment because while on vacation with my husband, like it was all about family. This vacation was all about going to visit family and being present for them. And I'm going to address two things. First of all, the start of a conversation. How to start a conversation is, for me, is to be very attentive. And that's what I was so attentive to. Like, there was a little bit of drama going on. Like, yeah, of all the years we visited my family and my husband's family, this is 1 year that there's a lot going on. So we were there to just really listen. On our way back, we started a conversation about my husband's business. So he launched a business 3 years ago, and I worked very part-time with him in the marketing side. And we had a conversation that I'm going to start having a different role, or adding new roles to the family business in the customer care and different things. So I'm going to start adding hours towards our family business while continuing to do what I love, which is everything that has to do with creativity and creating journals and coloring books and activity books to help individuals with stress and overwhelm and burnout and all of that. So I'm going to start using the tools that I put out there, because obviously I'm going to have like more hours of work to to put on the table. And but I'm sure that even though I'll add hours to my schedule, there's a way to get everything done. And it has a lot to do with how you start your day, and how you have to meditate a little bit, continue to have, like, just a positive attitude. I think starting your day and starting a new position is all about preparing and being ready for it and being excited. It's a new start, and I am excited. It's all about preparing.
Yeah, I think that is so essential. I was almost just thinking that until you brought that up. Is to get started, you got to have a checklist. I mean, if you're a pilot, right, they got a checklist. You got to check this, you got to push this button, you got to get all your data in or whatever it is. And then when everything checks out, you're ready to go. And a benefit to that is having an objective, trusted advisor near you who can tell you things that you may not see or understand or have context for. And I think that's so important to get started. Most, getting back to runners or racers, have coaches, have trainers, right? A physical trainer, a mindset trainer, whatever it is that can take that person and recalibrate them into the most high performance individual. I mean, how many artists depend on other artists to help them, either teach them, advise them, comment for them? And that makes a team. So we talk about ourselves, but we really talk about ourselves part of a universe of who our teammates are, right? Who our best friends are, our closest family members, whatever it is. And they say you're the factor of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So figure out the 5 people you're spending most time with, divide it by 5, and you'll be doing country dancing. If they're bowling, you'll be going bowling, because that's the group, right? And the idea is, if you want to do better, optimize your 5 people in the circle, right? If you decide you want to be a tennis player, find a tennis player to be part of your group and get that influence. So, there's planning for yourself, but there's also planning for sustainability. Because I think Christine makes a good point here when she says sometimes it's important to finish. My husband starts a lot of projects around the house and needs a push to finish before he starts another new project. And that's true. Some people are starters and not finishers. Some people are finishers and not starters. And some people don't want to finish and don't want to start. They just want to stay, for whatever reason, comfortably uncomfortable. Or maybe they just want to live an unexciting, unadventurous life. And, there's the reason for the word mild and modest. And there's no judgment there. But for people who are goal-oriented, like to achieve things, starting is essential. And sometimes without a sense of urgency, you don't get started, right? If you have to get out of the house in 2 minutes, you just leave, right? You don't plan it. It's just responsive. And can you get started in a spontaneous manner? Sheaf comes back. Oh, Maria says, I found starting over encourages self-inquiry and new insights. Sometimes it tanks, but it keeps you moving. During that time, community in some form is crucial. I'm realizing community is what I'm lacking. Uh, everybody's could use stronger coaches, teammates, friends, and they're not easy in this isolated world. And LinkedIn Live and these opportunities create a lot of that community. Drama, another way to spell family. Yeah, you've got,
Yes.
and everybody has, I think, some family and have had some family issues. But at a certain time, I find when you know what to expect, you should be ready for that. And in most cases, I just want to get as in as clean and as out as clean without creating any drama or suspense or continuing efforts. Dr. Constance, so great to have you. How you all doing? No class on Friday, so I'm here. Always happy to have Dr. Constance. She's doing so much in so many wonderful ways. Beverly is here, who's our Tuesday person. How right you are, Dalco, in this fast world. You can always get help. Reach out. There's a coach to help you for everything. A mentor will motivate, guide, and support you. Yeah, and if you're a coach, you can't sell what you don't buy, right? If it's good for you and the person with you, it's also good for you and the other person. And that's how everybody grows together. Beverly comments and compliments Maria. So yeah, there's so many different ways that START has a impact or integration into so many other things. Natalie, what's your thoughts with all this? This
My cat wants to join us.
Okay.
So before my vacation, I was very involved with the new communities that I'm part of. And when I left for my vacation, I think it's the first time that I go on a trip, and while having created these started new relationships, new friendships, and I miss them a lot. And I mean, 10 days is really not that long, but a lot happens. So now I can't wait to start being in contact with them again, because I have a lot of things to share with them, and um, their insights really matters to me. I really value their opinion, and I, when I read something popped up. I'm not seeing the comments, but I think it was Maria that said like she liked community. It's really important to somehow use technology, or it could be something outside of the house too, where you can find people to bounce back, to brainstorm. And I think starting to surround yourself with people that can help you in making decisions, and just give you other perspectives is really great. And of course, having a coach is excellent too. Finding the right coach and starting that relationship with a coach it can be something very exciting. We see that more and more. It's a very popular it's a new way to navigate within, like, whether personal or your like career. So there's a coach for everything. That's so true.
Well, to that point, Natalie, starting, is important to know you have support also. That the team that helped you get started is also the team that can be there for you as you continue along whatever journey you choose. And I think that's the fun of getting started. It is beginning something new. They say every ending is another new beginning, right? And most people, when they end something, they don't know what they're going to get into next, but they know what they've had and what they've left. And it's that in between time between moving and finding your place on the other side or wherever you tended to want to make the change to. And now you've got a whole journey of, open field in front of you, where a lot of times you left a closed thing or a limited thing or something that restricted your growth and expansion, right?
Mhm.
So it's things that don't fit that cause new starts to develop. Because, even if you have a coat and it's too tight, eventually you're going to either have to let it out or get a new coat in order to be comfortable in it. And things that you start with weren't always meant to take you to the finish line, right? It's like a rocket ship. It has booster rockets, gets it off the ground, and at a certain point they fall apart or fall away. And then the new rockets take over and finish the job. And people are like that. I mean, there's people you start businesses with that are great starting businesses with, but 5 years into it, they haven't grown and the business needs different, and it's the same thing relationship. Most people start equal, people learn differently, change because of things, and all of a sudden there's a division. And if you can't bridge it, you need to start something that is aligned again with where you are today. And I think that's the importance to start is you have to do it so many more times than you used to. People used to get a career, they get to a nice company and do well, and for 30 years they would just work and enjoy working and getting a nice retirement and never having to worry about getting laid off or fired. And now everybody's getting a job every 6 months. And if you, no matter who's signing the paycheck, you're working for yourself. So, let's see, Dennis comes back with agree family issues are formidable but workable. Uh, well, you just had that family experience, Natalie, and the vacation experience. So coming back from that, everything that used to be normal probably looks like a little bit of a change again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Constance is asking, are you back from vacation? I just got back yesterday and I'm trying to slowly catch up and start to feel like I have like this flow again. Uh, but it, you really disconnect and I think that's why you go away. So you disconnect. My husband was just telling me yesterday, he just totally disconnected and didn't think about business other than like going and logging his email and seeing if there's something that needs attention like right away. But yeah, it's a good thing, and at the same time it's like, okay, like let me arrange my office, what I'm going to need a new calendar, I need to start again. And then next week my daughter sent me a text before we left for Canada and said, Mom, I need to see you. She's in California, and in 2.5 years she's never asked me to come and visit. Really, she's the one who comes here. And I'm like, okay, I'm there because she asks me to go. I'm gonna go for another 4 days. So now I'm gonna start another vacation and come back and start again. So there's a lot of like flow and different things, but I think it's important to adapt and adjust. And like you were saying, aligning with where you are at the moment, and preparing a new start is it's everything, because if you're not aligned and you're not happy and you start something in that state of mind, it's probably not going to be it's going to be one of those false start. You'll have to go back to the start line and rethink your alignment. So
Well, that's a great differentiator and distinguishing point is mindset. And sometimes it's your perspective and your mindset with what you're dealing with and not what you're dealing with. And right when you get away and you reflect and you review, and all of a sudden you start looking at it differently, then it becomes something different. So there is something to what you mentioned earlier is a restart with something you're already doing. It's no different in a relationship. You say, hey, this is working, this isn't. Let's put it together so it is aligned and we can do a restart. And
mhm.
that's part of it. although a straight line is the fastest between 2 points, not everything goes in a straight line, right? If you climb a mountain, you just don't go straight up. You go to the left, whatever, you transverse it or traverse it, whatever the word is. And I think life is like that, is you have to say, okay, what's my position here? What's my situation?
Mm-hmm.
What's my next move? And sometimes your next move is a new start. Sometimes you say, we can't use this anymore, buy a new one, right? And that's something new. And to your point, a new calendar is something new, and I think a start also has to do with future outlook. How excited are you about next month or next week? With what you have planned, what you plan on starting next week. I mean, people start businesses and the first day they are just so excited. They're just so full of promise and hope and joy. And then a week later, the work sets in, right? And all of a sudden, the party's kind of over for a while. And that's kind of something people need to appreciate, because not everything goes that way forever, where you're going to have the peaks and the valleys. And
Mm-hmm.
understand that's part of what happens after you start. And and the goal is to finish well. So, it really is an intellectual puzzle in a way, to see how you get started in the best way. Uh, Maria asked you, what is your business?
Our family business. It's in the medical field. We have a website, a training website, to train nurses in their IV certification and implanted port management. It's so different than what I do as an artist. Um, and to continue on that thought, kind of taking on a new role in customer service, which means I have to really make sure that, let's say, like a nurse educator in a facility is using the program properly. I answer any questions they have. So I love that part of things, where even though I'm, talking and doing some follow up with nurses. I don't know anything about being a nurse. I couldn't have been a nurse. I can't even see a little boo boo with blood. I'd pass out. But, it's all about relationship, about people, one on one, communicating and answering a need. That's where I'm going to start really enjoying helping with whatever questions they have. And yeah, it's called IV Mastery, and we launched 3 years ago, and it's growing fast. So that's why I'm taking more hours and starting this new journey without leaving anything that I so want to continue to, like, be that creative person who, has that message about, not letting one day go by without doing something creative, and, to be more productive. So I'm gonna do what I preach.
Well, you look very confident when you're saying that. So I think you're very believable in that sense. And I think starting with confidence, with hope, with the desire to be better and do better is essential to getting started. So, with that said, and with all these comments coming through, it's obvious that all of us are thinking of doing something, you know, even if it's just paying a bill that we haven't wanted to pay attention to, or deal with a small obligation that doesn't seem to go away, and you got to ask yourself also, why don't you start when you do? Or if you don't start, why not? And what's holding you back? And the thing is, if you didn't desire to do something, that wouldn't be an issue, right? If you wanted to start painting and then you decided tomorrow, I don't want to paint, well, then it's not an issue anymore. And I think maybe that's something that says how much is internally motivating to get you started, and what external stimulus takes to get you started, right? If you get a jury duty
Yes.
request, you'll probably have to rearrange your schedule for it versus if someone said, hey, I'm having a coffee party, and you could say, well, that's not as important or not necessary. And I think then that's the division too, is what's a necessary start, where I have to eat today or I'm going to have an issue versus, do you go to the mall or do you go to somewhere else or whatever you decide. So I guess from frivolous to serious, from internal to external. Uh, and at the end of the day, how much more can you get started? What's your thoughts, Natalie?
Um, to continue on your idea of having a desire to start, that was part of the conversation I had with my husband. We drove 14 hours there and back, so there's a lot of conversation. We started a lot of conversations, but I was telling him, having a burning desire, waking up in the morning with like excited, putting your feet on the ground and just standing up with the just like you can't wait to start your day because you have that burning desire. Well, how do you keep that? It's one thing to you can kind of get yourself in that mode, like in that, okay, I have the burning desire to really help my husband grow our business, reach out to more customers. That's going to give him time to grow the business more. And but where are you going with that? It's like, eventually you want to have time to travel and eventually sell the business. I don't know. So what's in the instance that when you start a new project, a new career, a new idea, is it from a burning desire within you because you thought long and hard about that, and or starting something that you're not sure and you need to try it first because you don't know if it's gonna engage that desire in you. So I think whatever we start, we have to look at it in the optic of being something positive for yourself first, and that where you can serve, you see yourself, evolving and growing in a position. You can start as a new, you study nursing, you're going to start at the bottom of the, ladder, and then there's so many steps that you can climb if you have that desire. And that makes it exciting as your career. You can grow and achieve more goals. In anything, any field. I think when you start and you decide that's what you're going to do, always try to, have goals and see yourself, achieve more and go towards something that's going to make you excited to wake up in the morning and keep that flame, burning. Otherwise, it's, you don't want to let life get boring. And sometimes you don't, things happen, very unexpected things can happen, and you usually have to restart, realign, and start again, like this little one here. She wants to join the garbage, she wants to jump on my computer, she likes the heat of it or something. But yeah, so
Well, and I think, the burning desire is a great visualization, but also an obligation.
hmm,
Important. How many times say, I owe it to myself?
I love that.
Right? Let's say some people wanted to tango all their life. And at whatever age they decide, I owe it to myself to learn how to do this because I've always had that desire, but not burning enough, maybe, to make me rearrange things. And a lot of times, most people put things off for other people. If I hadn't done this, I could have done that, right? I mean, someone who wants to live on the ocean and then moves away from it, that's somewhat. So, or you owe it to somebody else, like you just mentioned, your daughter, right? If someone says, hey, I need you, and they never say that, well, I owe it to you to come through for you, right? So in that case, it is a start. And it also puts everything on a pause for that to happen,
Yeah.
right? So you're not leaving it, you're just pausing it and then finding that. And that gives you the responsiveness and the reflexibility, if that's a word, to uh, have events guide your starting points, right? When I gain 8 more pounds, I'll be able to do that. Or when I'm able to do this, I'm going to start that. So
Mm.
sometimes stage situation, if you want to do that, well, it's going to cost this much, or you got to allocate time. And then that's even more important, because when you have commitment beyond just I want to do it to I have to do it, or I'm spending so much, I need to finish this. And that might be the reason you finish, because you can't afford to stop. It's like that old story with all the generals burning all the boats when they land on the new land that they're trying to conquer, as they tell their soldiers, we win, there's no retreat. We have no boats, right? So it's the same thing when you burn your boats, you make sure there's no coming back.
Mm.
And that's a big decision for people, because I know a lot of people, especially from different countries, leave their families and their countries with full knowledge they may never see them again, right? And then, how do you do that relative to people who can't get out of bed and drive somewhere? It's perspective, it's context, and it's looking down as well as looking up, being
Mm.
grateful for what you already have, what you've already had, and not feeling like a victim when something doesn't go your way. And to Natalie's point, everything can change in a second, and it does for a lot of people,
Oh, absolutely.
good
Yeah.
and bad, right? Have a new
Oh,
baby.
yeah.
I could never understand how you go in with two and walk out with three. It was such, it was an amazing thing, adding to family, and making your own family. But, when you say family, you can take that example, but you could take this example of, when do you choose the family of today
Mm.
you want to learn from, build with, find inspiration together? Because if you really look at start, everything relates to time, right? Without time, there is no start, because there's a point when you start, there's a point when you have a call, there's a point when you come home from wherever you're at. So the real objective is, how do you direct your time
Mm-hmm.
so that every hour is better spent towards whatever you're starting or have started, like this new responsibilities that you're assuming,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're saying about you know, taking the time. Again, coming back to, if you're not well, if you're not in a good state of mind, if there's a lot of, right, like nowadays, I'm so glad that there's a lot more openness about um, child, what is it called, when you have um, oh my goodness, when you have you're depressed, you have you're either bipolar, you need to take medicine. What is it called? When you're sick. Okay.
Okay.
If you're not well, you need to get yourself well first before you start anything. It starts with you. I don't know what. I've been speaking French for 2 weeks, and coming back to English is like, okay, let's. I think in French first, and I have to translate while I'm talking. It's a little bit challenging sometimes. But yeah, so it's, I don't want to say it's easy for me to say, okay, I want to, I have this burning desire, and I'm starting this new position and adding this and that, and I'm doing well, I'm taking care of myself, I put my mask on first. And I don't want to say it's easy to say, because some people might listen to me talk and go, how can she even like begin to think of adding anything, because they're in a a point in their life where they're depressed, something happened to them, and even thinking about starting something is too overwhelming. It's not even doable. So, you know, eh, before you even begin to think about starting something different, because whatever your situation was before brought you to that point, um, there needs to be that pause. I love the word pause. My business was called Pause and Paint. And it's one of those buttons that we used to have on those old machines recording. You can pause things, so you stop, you have a control over that pause. When do you start again? When you hit that play button again, and you start to play your life again. So the pause is very important to new starts. And I hope that if anybody is in the audience today and they're listening to us going, I don't know where to start. Start with just that pause and journal, talk to someone, go for a walk, and just surround yourself with nature. And there needs to have a renew, a restart, a new beginning. You need to have that pause often. Once you get going, then like there's no limit. Just get excited with your life again.
Yeah, and I think that is so relevant when anybody is anywhere. It's the little starts they need to focus on, right? Like make sure you just keep breathing, right? That would be a first start. Make sure you eat a little something, you get some rest, and you don't have to make it worse by doing too much too soon when you're not ready, but you need to make an effort to do a little bit more every day, right? If you walked a half a block, maybe today walk a block. I mean, people say, here's a big book, can you read it? And they look at us like, no way. But if you said, can you read a page a day, which would take about a minute, in a year you'll read the book, right? And you can do a page a day. So you do what you can do easily when you're in trouble, when you're challenged. And you let people help you. That's another thing when you're in trouble. You give people the right to come and see you, to prepare things for you. Too many people are proud to the point where they don't want to admit they have an issue. They can handle it all themselves. It's no big deal until they're alone, and then it's a huge deal.
Hmm.
And they had that opportunity that someone says, hey, if you can't drive, I'll give you a lift next week, or if you need something, no problem. And I think it's the proactive thing to start asking for help when you need it, right? Because
Absolutely.
there's so many people, I mean, I hear this all the time. If he or she would have just called me before they did whatever they did,
Hmm.
I could have helped them. If they needed some money or a lawyer or something, I could. They feel bad they didn't get the opportunity. Not only do they feel bad that someone took some rash action, but the answer was right in front of them. And the key then to it is trust. Do you trust yourself to get started? And if you don't, then it just says you need somebody to help you. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get started, it just means you're not, for whatever reason, capable of doing it yourself. And everybody should be able to give somebody a helping hand, right? If all you need is bus fare, yeah, I'll get you $10 or whatever it is. Whatever the point is, you should never give up on yourself. And if you
Hmm.
give up on yourself, you shouldn't give up on the people around you who could help you and want to help you.
Yeah.
People, go ahead, Natalie, please.
Yeah. No, giving up on yourself is giving up on the people you love. And that's why the word I was looking for is mental illness. When you're sick, obviously, yeah, illness, it's everywhere. But when you give up on yourself because you have that depression, all you want to do is sleep. Like Maria says, just clean your attic. Start with a few things that you can just throw away, make room, and then next thing you know, you'll go on a mile walk. getting rid of old stuff really helps you move the dial. Then go for an hour walk. Yeah, I mean, don't give up on yourself. If it's just the worst thing you can do. My father committed suicide. He gave up on himself. So for years, I just blamed myself. I blamed so many things. When you don't have an answer to why somebody quit and didn't want to, start again, start over. It just puts an end to everything, and abrupt ending is the opposite to start. you know and ending your life is not, it's just not a solution. Maybe that's the only thing you see. But you have to just not give up on yourself. And I love that you said that, because there's so many different things out there, different organizations, and you just type a few keywords, something's going to pop up on your computer. In the 70s, 80s, we didn't have that. We have that now. So, technology is definitely very, very positive when you think about, what it can bring, how it can help, and how it can help you start over and find the light in your life again.
Yeah,
And I'm deep today.
no, that's very, very profound and very, wonderful for you to contribute that, because there's so many people who have lost somebody uh, suddenly, right? It could be an accident. It could be somebody, whatever it is, and everything just shuts right. That's where it ends, right? That seat at the table never gets filled again. And, that's why people should appreciate, if they can't live right now for themselves, they should live for the people around them, right? Because that means something. And most people don't realize that. I remember to that point, David Spade, whose cousin was Kate Spade, who was the pocketbook person.
Yeah.
And she ended her life. And they asked David Spade, the comic, what do you think? And he said, I know her real well. If she would have 5 more minutes, she would have never done it. If she had 5 minutes to think about it, she would have never done it. But in a rush of whatever it was, impulse,
Hmm.
she just wasn't thinking. And I think having programs, communities that, if you have nothing more to lose, and some people are in that position, at least mentally, what do you have to lose by asking for help? You're already wherever you are. And just asking for help gives you hope, because it says you're able to do that now. And they say the healthiest people are people who seek help first, because they know they need it and they know what it can do for them. It's the sickest people typically who refuse to accept it, and think they don't need it. And it's an ego thing in a lot of ways. Most people who give up had come from a lofty position, and now they found themselves in a much different place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to accept that now you used to be this yesterday and now you're going to be that. And that happens in the workplace. How many people lose a job and everything depended on it? And it's the same thing as, where is your support? Where is your safety net?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's really the key to getting started, is having a plan that makes things in place, let's say, where you've done enough goodwill, you've provided enough. And now if you have to take a withdrawal, then you feel okay about it. But, the thing is, helping somebody in a huge way is a reward in itself, because how many opportunities do you really have that you can help somebody who's really near and dear to you, if given the opportunity? Right? If you've got more than you need and someone needs something who's really close to you, you're actually supporting yourself, because you're taking care of somebody you don't have to worry about. right? You're taking care of somebody that maybe they can go off on their own and be everything they wanted to be. And I think maybe that's in finishing with START is how to help other people get started. We've been talking about ourselves and how it affects it, but hey, maybe you're already kind of happy with where you're at. So it's not about let's do a restart. If ever, there's a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And if things are working well, enjoy them. But what can you do for the other people? And I know having families, there's always somebody that you can help with, especially your kids, or in my case, my grandkids. And that's the beauty of it, is wherever you are, there's people in your life that make your life what it is and make it better for being in it, and I think that's because what comes around goes around. And just a knowledge of safety, right? I mean, when you were growing up, in most cases you didn't worry about anything about what you're going to do that day. You didn't have bills to pay, you didn't have a job to go to. It was like every day's a holiday, and you didn't even know it at the time. But why not go back to every day's a holiday again? Because you're still that kid plus everything you learned and everybody you've met, So at a certain point, say, I want to be innocent. I want to be childlike. I want to be happy, and get away from the things that don't make you happy and don't fortify you. And you can just like a closet, it's the easiest thing. You can go through there in 20 minutes if you have a burst of energy and start sorting, throwing things on the bed and keeping things in the closet. So why not take that to the next level and go through your own closet internally and ask yourself what fits, what really looks good on me now, or what do I need to bring into my wardrobe to complete it, and there's always something to buying yourself a present, and I think that's so important, is to celebrate anything that's worth celebrating and is real. And especially that would be a key thing. When you start something, give yourself a prize when you finish it or when you continue it, right? 6 months of no smoking. Well, that deserves a banana split, maybe.
That's good.
Something you won't forget. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I'll go through some more of the comments. Ashif says, set your life on fire, seek those who fan your flames. Rumi, why not?
That's a
Passion,
great quote.
beauty, love, why not hit all the high notes? It's not just living with energy, it's thinking and believing with energy. Your imagination can never be replicated in reality. You can think of things so quick and adjust them, and maybe that's the beauty, is the creative aspect of starting, what it takes to get started, and how much style and flair you have in your start. Why not bring your art to your life and your life to your art? And here's a new name, Anupama. Perhaps we never thought in that way. However, we have to start our journey and come out of the comfort zone. I totally agree on your statement. Thank you for the insightful information. Well, thank you for thanking us, because that validates to us, at least, that we're bringing value. Maria says, made a commitment to chuck everything from a certain time. And oh my God, when you see the space clear, it really helps you with thought process. Well, when you downsize from a huge house to a very small place, it's unbelievable the stuff you've accumulated, especially if you always went from a smaller house to a bigger house to a bigger house. There was no thinking involved. It's like, hey, we got a lot of room, just toss it over there. And when I downsized, I saw crates and boxes that were there for 35 years that were never opened. And if they were never there, I'd have no way of knowing what was in them. So I would have never even missed them if they never showed up. And when I opened them, it was just old other people's stuff, china, tablecloths. I mean, and you wonder, I got enough of my stuff, and now I carried over their stuff and then my grandmother's stuff. And it's like, would they want me to have all this stuff cluttering everything, and not using it? So anyways, taking inventory is so valuable in whatever word, whatever action or thought you have. And then being, relevant, contemporary, in the moment, and then
Mhm.
everything you have serves that. And everything that reflects the past and not the future is not that necessary. And why not use it up? Why not wear it out? You know, how many people save something for that one occasion? Well, it's still just whatever it is. Wear it whenever you want, you know?
No, you gain like 10 pounds and you keep those jeans for when you're gonna lose that 10 pounds. Well, go buy a new pair of jeans because what are you gonna wear? Like shorts in the meantime? Like uh, I love that. Cleaning the attic, I kind of think of it as just cleaning your thoughts. Like just start a new day every day. It's you start anew every day. You start anew. Whenever I start thinking of something too much, like we don't even realize how many thoughts that enters our mind, and that takes us either in a negative path or in a positive, or if it's positive, it's because you're probably in the present. But when you start thinking of things that don't serve you, what I've been doing. It's a Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if I pronounce his name right. I love some of his videos where he invites you to be present, and whatever is in your mind that you don't want there, you say to yourself, "I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. I'm more than that. I'm me. I'm present. I can start, you know, my moment and live in this moment now, and look at nature, look at your cat, pet your cat, draw, do something that brings you back in the present, because your thoughts sometimes they're a whirlwind and they'll just like spiral and take you in a place you don't want to go. So I think starting often starting is in in anything. I think in creating, to start a painting, the hardest part is to begin, is to start it, because you have to gather everything you need. You have to make sure that like you have time. Starting is it. I come back to my first idea. It just takes like you need to get prepared to have a good start, and then once you begin that process, you start adding color, you start being bold in your actions. It's fun. But I agree. I don't know who said that, but starting is the hardest part in a lot of situations, especially in business.
Yeah, I guess when you add that with ending is a very difficult thing, and then starting is another difficult thing. So you actually have to go through two doors, which is leave the door you're at, which could be inactivity to activity, or leaving a job for another job or whatever, but it's scary leaving. And it's hard because saying goodbye is like saying no to a lot of people at once, and people that you've spent a lot of time, and now you won't have them, they won't have you. Your new family is yet to show up, and you don't know what that's going to be like. And you always are going to have, did I do the right thing? Should I stay there? And later on, just like vacations, I've never had one I regretted. I've
Mhm.
had a lot that I didn't think I could do, or I thought it would be tough. But getting away from yourself is really getting a good start. And to your point, you're so right with so many thoughts. And that's why people listen to music, because now their thoughts go to the music, to the words, to the melody. People go to books because, when it was funny, when things were really tough early on in business, I would start reading Westerns. And I have nothing to do with Westerns, but it was so far out of what I was into with rattlesnakes and wagon trains and all that stuff that I got totally into the characters and into the time. And I was able to free myself from that jail of the loop, the this, the that, the this, the that. And sometimes you say enough. You almost have to talk to yourself as if you're a different person. You
Mhm.
know, why are you doing this to yourself? What is to be gained? Fast forward 30 more minutes of this, what's going to change? It's like looking at the movie expecting different ending, that's never going to happen. So I think life is a comedy, in my opinion. Everybody is can't take anything too seriously, including themselves. Starting is something that once you do it, it doesn't burn every bridge to where you were either, right? So you could restart or have a comeback. You leave a job and you thought something was better and wasn't working out, and all of a sudden you can come back,
Mm-hmm.
right? So not every bridge is something that burns behind you, and some things are things that you need to start to really figure out what you needed to start, right? You could start a painting and halfway through say, no, this is what I really wanted to do. But that half painting allowed you to clarify. And
Yeah.
I think clarity and vision help you, I mean, just like you get in a car. If the snow is all over the windshield, you need to get some vision here and clarity. You just don't allow whatever to happen. So with
Mm-hmm.
that, I think we thoroughly covered start today for a small word that needs really a connection to something to have real meaning or value. And the audience was terrific as always. I just love what's happening as we're getting 3, 4, 5 line comments, with depth. And, I think that it's easy for people to be sincere and vulnerable when they're experiencing the same thing around them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one last thing for start is once you already have permission, right? Once you have your license for doing something, you just became a doctor or a teacher, and now you're certified and you can go to work, right? It wasn't just starting to work. Look at what it takes to be a doctor. Look at the expense. Look at the time, until a person can actually start, the apprenticeship or whatever.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
doing it is so important and thinking about it. So, with that said, thank you, everybody. I'll just share with you that tomorrow we're going to have Leslie Flowers, and we're going to have let me see, and Catherine Chadwick, who's been here before, another wonderful lady. Sunday is Harvey and Kelly. Kelly got tied up. Miss her always, but she'll be back Sunday. Monday, we have a brand new guest, wonderful individual. Somebody you shouldn't miss is David Alto. Just a great guy. Tremendous influencer, has over 111,000 connections, and is just doing great on LinkedIn. So I think that'll be a great resource. So anyway, stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I can't thank Natalie enough for all her wonderful insights and
Thank
contribution.
you.
And you'll see Natalie again. So with that, take care. Bye for now.